Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the XForceGlobal channel. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Today we're back with another Bitcoin analysis. I know you guys love these videos, so I'm here to make sure to update the price action from our prior video and see how we can go forward with the new updated wave counts. So what we have here is the same idea. We're just working with the same narrative that we are working for a possible fifth wave completion. No need to overcomplicate it. We just need to work on what's the most probable scenario, narrow it down as best as we can, see how we can utilize this move up either as an impulse or a completion of a wave 3. All we have to do is determine where the wave 3 has ended, most likely here. But again, we do have the idea that this possible wave 4 is now terminated as a possible sideways movement of a wave 4 as a flat idea because of this move here that we just had moments ago. Now this idea here looks impulsive, but I'm going to be talking about how we could also go down, but that's the least probable scenario at this current time of recording. But for now, I think this idea still stands true that we are working for a possible 3, 4, and then a fifth wave to the upside. Now I did talk about this being a possible truncation in the previous video, but the Binance chart surprisingly is showing us that we had a new top being created. So I like the idea that this is also a possible 5-wave completion, which I'm going to be talking about in just a moment. So again, this first idea is just based on the idea that this wave 3, 4 has now completed and we're working for a fifth wave. Again, I don't want to be saying that this wave 4 is going to be extending longer in time. I think it's extended long enough in order to maintain the somewhat symmetry to this wave 1, 2. Again, what we would like to see for this idea for it to be continuing is a possible 5-wave up into a wave 1, pull back for a wave 2. We don't know how far that wave 2 is going to be pulling back. Looking for a 3, and then a fifth wave to complete off that fifth wave. And remember, we are working in this degree of a higher time frame, so that'll complete that 5-wave move overall. To complete that move before we go for a juicy pullback of that move here is going to be determined, and that is when I'm going to be personally bearish, but we'll see if this is going to be continuing. There's no need to rush, but for the time being, let's talk about the alternative scenarios, because this is not the highest probable scenario for me. This is actually just working on the narrative, because as we get more data, I do like to work on new ideas on how we can be completing a new range and what is now considered a completed range. So this idea is just working on the idea that wave 4 is completed and we're working for wave 5 to complete off just one ideal scenario of an impulse. So this idea is still in the works. I do like this idea. I do like the idea that this is a flat, and we are now working for a possible fifth wave move. Again, ideally, we don't want to be seeing any lower moves, and break above below this is going to be completely different. So what would that be? We have a possible 1, 2 being created now. What that means is we are utilizing this move here as a completed 5-wave move. Just keep it simple, ladies and gentlemen. There's too many people trying to utilize WXYs, too many people try to utilize larger ranges within it, and then it ruins the look of the previous range. We want to try to keep things symmetrical as best as we can, try to be simple, and also apply the fundamentals of, or the sentiment, or the market sentiment and the psychology of the sentiment into our wave counts, because again, Elliott wave theory is based on the observations and what's best that works with it, the psychology of the markets. So right now, what I do believe is that since we did get this pullback here, I think that was significant enough to say that we are still going to be ranging. So what that means is we have two options here, okay? We have two options of how this wave 2 could be playing out. And that what that means is actually 3 options. Let's talk about the first option. The first option here, let's just go over this from an educational perspective. Does this look right to you? I don't think so. I don't think that this is a completed 1, 2. Could be. It's valid. Absolutely possible. But I don't think this is the likely case. I don't think we even met any of the major Fibonacci levels whatsoever. Not even the 382, the minimum. Oh, we did. So I guess this is a valid one. But for this utilization of this 382, that's where my next idea is going to be. Because I do believe that this wave 2 is going to be working sideways. Why? Because I like to utilize this new range in terms of time against this previous data. Remember, Elliott wave works with the preceding waves as well. So you want to be utilizing the previous range as best as you can to your advantage in terms of what is completed and what is more corrective and what is impulsive. So to me, this is considered as a completed wave 5. So again, that first option of that ABC was the first option. Now the second option is that instead of saying the depth, since our wave X is now least probable, right? Because we could also alternatively say that this is still working deeper, both in time and in depth, meaning that this could be a WXY. Now, in terms of time, I think that we did meet the X wave expectation, but due to this impulsive nature, we have two options here. We can utilize this as an ABC to the upside and say that this was the X wave in terms of the shortness of the time for wave X. But again, in accordance to the guidelines, we have to make sure to see what gives the best look. In terms of the best look, we want to see a little bit of at least some kind of development of a three wave being created. Right now, we don't have that because just the current nature of this move up here just looks more impulsive than anything else. We retrace the whole move to the upside, basically, essentially. Now, what's the next problem from here? If we take the Fibonacci retracements and we pull up the 70%, if we pull up the 70% for a possible retracement being completed, that is pretty much the maximum level of a wave X in terms of a double zigzag. Why? Because wave X is usually less than 70% of the origin of wave W in terms of price, okay? And then wave X, again, it'll usually retrace, or is the most likely retracement level that it'll hit is the 38.2 retracement of wave W. So we've obviously hit that minimum expectation of that 382. We surpassed it. We've surpassed the next level of the 50% retracement, which is not a golden Fibonacci zone. It's just the 50% zone. The next golden Fibonacci level of the 61.8 retracement of wave W for this wave X is the most likely case. That's our third option for a wave X. But again, we've surpassed that as well, and we are now pretty much at peak validation for this wave X for the 70% mark. So what does that mean? We have two options here. We have to really move down strong in terms of this five-wave move going into wave A, have another retracement for wave B, most likely as a bottom, double bottom, and then we go down for a possible five-wave move to complete off wave W. So that is the option here in terms of depth. That'll finish this wave 2, which would give us a relatively pretty good look against this previous impulse that we had. Again, we're utilizing this move as a five-wave move, right? So we want to say that this ABC was the most likely case, and not as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because we were expecting a fifth wave move possibly. This idea is now the only idea in terms of how I can fit in a possible WXY idea for wave 2 in terms of depth. So if this idea is looking less likely, what is the next option? What is the next mode of correction if we have a three-wave move going into a possible wave W or whatever corrective mode? The only next corrective mode we have is a possible wave 2. So we met the maximum level pretty much of that 382 for this first wave A, and now we're looking for a possible ABC to the upside for a wave B for either an irregular or an expanded flat. So this idea, in order for this to be achieved, like I've said, this is utilized most likely as a possible five-wave move, right? Because it does look impulsive. We retrace the whole move in a very short amount of time. So that is quite impulsive, unless we get like a flash dump, and that's where the Y wave also could be coming into play. So if this is the fifth wave, all we need is just one more micro time frame move to the upside as a fifth wave, and then we come back down for wave B, and then we have another five-wave move into a possible B pocket expansion, expanded zone variation, meaning that this is the beginning of a flat idea. So instead of utilizing the depth of a wave 2, and since we've already kind of exhausted the idea that this idea is not a wave X, the next mode of correction is the possibility of a flat idea where wave 2 is going to be moving in terms of sideways of time, because this move here has given us a little bit more leeway in terms of how we can be working with a larger wave 2. So you just got to mix and match and kind of assume or make educated guesses in terms of how you want to be utilizing time or in terms of depth. And here, what we're doing here is saying that this wave 3 being completed and this wave 4 being completed, we're now really, if you zoom out, it doesn't look that bad if for a 1-2 even as a sideways, because the shallowness of it, we've already met the 382, and even a little bit of further down if to the 50 or even the 1618 doesn't really matter because this new structure is being created. our whole move up here, what we expected, could now be assumed completed for a 5-wave move up for that wave 1. So that is why I believe this idea is the most probable idea, because we have a possibility of not having an X wave being created, but rather that a 5-wave move up into a wave A could get that similar wave pullback of a wave B, of an internal B wave of a flat. This idea just seems a little bit more likely in terms of the probabilities. So this is my highest probability scenario for the time being. But again, I've already did mention that the possibility of having these levels being created, there are 3 ways we can look at it. Again, to summarize, wave 2 could be complete, but that's the least probable idea because the ABC is just too short in time and size. There's another possibility that wave X being completed, and now we're working for WXY, and we're now going for that wave Y. Again, possible, that's the second most probable idea because we just are based on guidelines alone. If we're going to be following from textbook to textbook, the idea of wave X usually being less than 70% of wave W by price, that just makes more sense that this is not going to be an X wave because we've already surpassed the 3 most expectations of the 38.2%, 50%, and the 61.8%. We've surpassed that, and we've hit pretty much on the dot for the 70%. So the next mode of correction, since we still have that possibility of this being a 3-wave and utilizing that as a 3-wave, the last possible idea is going to be going into wave A and then B and then C for a larger B and then one more move down, and that will create a range of a larger move that will help alleviate some of the timing in terms of against this impulsive move that we had to the upside here. So that idea is the most probable scenario to me. Again, if we do break out of here, very simple. All we have to do is just say that we're working in that first idea that this wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're working for a 5th or even more bullish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going into wave 1, and the same idea utilization of a sideways structure for wave 2 is in play, and we even nest even further to the upside, and that'll be even more bullish. So this just those 2 scenarios for me personally. I think those 2 ideas are going to be the best way to do it, and the easier way to summarize this is that we have a wave 3 being completed and a wave 4 being completed, just like we have here, or a wave 1 being completed and a wave 2 being completed. So that checks off this move here. We're at peak validation for this idea here. And then the second idea, again, to summarize it, is that we have a possible larger 1, 2 being created. So how do we use this as a family tree? We can see that we have a possible ABC completion right here. That idea is not likely, could be. Now again, these are all valid though. These are all valid, but what's the likely one? The next likely one is going to be a WXY, right? But again, we've already talked about why wave X is not likely because of the retracement level here. The last idea in terms of the mode of correction is a flat idea, right? So it would be the flat idea. Again, the 3, 3, 5 idea, which is 3 here, 3 here, and then a 5 to complete off a wave C, and that'll help build or take out some liquidity within these regions here one more time, and then we're off to the races for a 3, 4, 5 to help complete it. And this will bring us a tad bit higher than our previous scenario, even because the wave 1, 2 is now starting to act as a springboard, and then wave 3 should be quite extended, and then 4, 5, and that'll lead us into $80,000 to $100,000 region, depending on how far we go. We don't know yet. So that's the simplest way I can kind of restructure it. So those are scenarios, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to talk about the bear scenarios right now because we are just simply in a range. We could have talked about the depth of it if we came down further. We would have been talking about a little bit more of the bear scenarios if we did come back down for a 5-wave move, because that builds a different actionary wave into a possible wave 1, but we didn't get that. So this idea is just more likely. Again, those 2 scenarios I've shared is the most likely scenarios. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. If you're interested in joining the XForceGlobal Discord Premium membership, I do have the link in the description below. Please do not hesitate to contact me. If you're not following me on social media already, at X, or formerly known as Twitter, please do give me a follow at XForceGlobal. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.